everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today's Down and Dirty is a little bit of a departure. We're not going to go over a training subject today. It's not a teaching moment. This is more geared to calm some fears about what's going on with the economy right now, what's going on in the world. So, as many of you know, I host a show for Randall Reilly called The Dirt. You can check out the channel here. And I recently did an interview with Ken Simonson, who is an actual economist. And so I thought you guys would benefit from some of the information. If you want to watch the full interview, absolutely head over to that link I just showed up here and actually go watch the full interview. But if you want just kind of a high-level recap, here's what's going on in the world right now. So as all of us are aware, Russia has decided to go to war with Ukraine, and that is a huge source of oil for the world. Russia is, I should say. And so we are already starting to see the impacts of that as gas and diesel prices start to rise here in the US. That's going to continue to be the case for a while, unfortunately, because in order to ramp up oil production from other countries or to start more oil production here at home, that's not just an overnight flick of a switch, everything's back to normal. We're talking about having to negotiate with other suppliers of oil. We're having to pull our equipment out of storage and put it to work. We're talking about having to possibly build some of the pipelines that the Biden administration passed on earlier in the year. These are all things that take some time. So realistically, fuel prices are going to stay high for the foreseeable future, maybe, 6 months to a year. That's a total guess on my part, but it's not going to be an overnight thing where fuel prices start to come down. Now, one of the bright things is material prices across the board are not necessarily increasing because there are a lot of countries in Europe being impacted quite heavily economically by what's going on overseas. Production has slowed overseas, which means that the demand for supplies has slowed down as well. That means that prices over here in the US are going to start to fall on certain items. Now, obviously, we have to take into account that everything we use in the building trades comes on a big truck, and that big truck is powered by diesel. All of our materials in the dirt world come out of a pit that uses loaders and screening plants and excavators and gravel trains, which all use diesel. So there will 100% be fuel surcharges on those materials. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that everything from a building material standpoint across the board is going to skyrocket. So that's one silver lining to this, if you will. I did talk to Ken, and we did talk specifically about the residential side. If you guys are, anything like Rick and myself, we've already had a couple, well, not just a couple, we've had a handful of jobs already call and say, hey, we're going to postpone, we're going to delay, kind of let this whole thing blow over. We are going to see a slowing in the economy. There's no doubt about it. We are going to see a slowing even here in the U.S. However, after talking with Ken, I feel a little bit better about it, that it's not going to be like we're not on the verge of a recession. The economy isn't about to turn to shit. It's not panic mode. It's not panic mode. Yes, we will absolutely see a slow. Because of the fuel prices and the material prices, already the housing market is slowing just a little bit because it's just so dang expensive to build. Now, another thing that's going to play into this whole interesting, fun box that we're playing in is the Fed is going to meet here in mid-March, and they're going to raise rates. Now, they're only talking about going up 25 basis points, which is 0.25%. So not astronomical. It's not going to shut everything down, but at the same time, anytime you raise the interest rates, people slow down on borrowing money. They're going to continue to raise rates throughout this year, which is ultimately is a good thing. We don't need to get into why. We don't need to get into whether or not we agree with that. Ultimately, it's a good thing, but it does slow the market down a little bit. But again, all of these changes are going to be happening gradually. We are not on the cusp of a recession. I did ask Ken that specifically, and he did address that. We are not on the cusp of a recession. This is not something that everyone needs to panic over. But I will say, my advice to you as contractors, put some extra money in the bank. We are going to be a little tighter on jobs this year, especially if you're serving the residential market, just because, spending money is going to be a little tight, especially when you couple it with the high fuel prices that we're paying and the fuel surcharges we're having to charge our customers. That market's going to slow down a little bit. If you're one of these contractors, and there's no judgment here when I say this, I want you to hear that. There's no judgment, but there is a substantial part of the smaller end of our business that really tends to live paycheck to paycheck when it comes to throwing money out for materials for the next job or making payments on something and then trying to scramble. I will say, if you're one of those guys, there's a decent chance, unless you start putting some money in the bank, you're not going to make it through this, because it is going to get a little tight. It's just one of those things where you need to be responsible. You need to plan for it. You need to put some money in your bank account, pad your numbers just a little bit. And when you go out and bid and you're starting to put those numbers in your mind for what kind of year you're going to have, be a little more conservative. Maybe you went out and bid 5 jobs. Maybe think you're only going to get 2 or 3 of those jobs instead of 3 or 4 of those jobs. Maybe if it's 10 jobs and you normally get 6 of them, maybe think you're only going to get 3 of them. Just start to plan, start to be a little more conservative. But by no means do we need to start selling off pieces of equipment, go into a panic, shut everything down, and go order 50 pounds of food to have sitting in our basement. We're not there yet, guys. We're not there. So that's all I've got for today. I just really wanted to I know there's a lot of guys out there that are really starting to pucker up. And Rick and I are puckering as well. I feel significantly better after talking with Ken, but at the same time, I know there's a lot of you guys that don't have access to this information, and that's why I want to give it to you. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope it's calmed your nerves just a little bit. Keep at it, guys. We're going to get through this one. We're going to bounce back. It's going to happen. So we'll catch you guys on the next Down and Dirty.